I still remember the day I bought the house. It was everything I'd ever wanted, an old Victorian on the edge of a quiet town, nestled behind tall trees with a wraparound porch that looked like it belonged in a postcard. The realtor called it charming with potential, which I took as code for needing work. But at the price they offered, it was a no-brainer. The previous owners had left in a hurry, she said, but wouldn't say much more. At the time, I didn't care, I was just excited to start fresh. The first few days were uneventful. I busied myself unpacking boxes and figuring out what to do with all the furniture the last owners had left behind. It was strange how much they abandoned, everything from dishes to photo frames, but I figured they just didn't want the hassle of moving it all. Even then, though, something about the house felt off. Certain rooms felt heavier, like the air was pressing down on me. And every so often, I'd catch a faint, sour smell, like rotting meat, that would vanish as quickly as it came. It wasn't long before the weirdness started. It began with the mirror. There was this huge, ornate mirror in the upstairs hallway, one of those antique pieces with a thick gold frame. One night, as I was heading to bed, I glanced into it, and froze. My reflection wasn't moving. I waved my hand slowly, and the reflection eventually followed, but it was delayed, like a bad video feed. And then, for just a split second, I saw another face in the glass. Pale, with hollow eyes and a twisted, unnatural smile. I ripped the mirror off the wall and shoved it into the attic, but the feeling that something was watching me never went away. The nights were the worst. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, I'd wake up to this faint sound. At first, I thought it was just the wind or the house settling, but it was too rhythmic, too deliberate. It sounded like someone whispering outside my bedroom door. I couldn't make out the words, but it was low and raspy, like whoever, or whatever, was speaking wanted me to hear it but not understand. One night, the whispers grew louder, and the door to my bedroom creaked open on its own. I lay frozen in bed, my heart pounding in my chest, staring at the empty hallway beyond. The basement was another story. From the moment I moved in, I avoided it. Something about the door at the end of the hall unsettled me. It was always cold around it, and sometimes I thought I heard faint scratching coming from the other side. One evening, I mustered the courage to go down there after hearing the whispers again. The air was freezing, and the smell of rot was overwhelming. At the bottom of the stairs, I found a door I hadn't noticed before. It looked older than the rest of the house, with deep scratches gouged into the wood. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Inside was a tiny, windowless room. The walls were covered in claw marks, like someone had desperately tried to escape. In the center of the room was a single wooden chair, and sitting on it was a small, dirt-covered box. My hands shook as I opened it, revealing a bundle of old photographs. They were of a family, a man, a woman, and a little girl. The first few pictures seemed normal, but as I flipped through them, they became more disturbing. The little girl was in the basement in several of the photos, sitting in the same chair I'd just seen. Her head was tilted at a strange angle, and her face became more distorted in each picture. The final photo was a close-up of her face. Her eyes were completely black. And her mouth was twisted into a grotesque grin. Scrawled on the back of the photo were the words, "She never left." That night, everything came to a head. I woke up to the sound of footsteps, heavy, deliberate footsteps, coming up the basement stairs. I bolted upright in bed, listening as they grew louder, each one echoing through the house. The footsteps stopped outside my bedroom door, and I could hear something breathing. The doorknob turned slowly, but the door didn't open. Then, the whispers started again, louder this time. Before I could react, the lights flickered and went out completely. I grabbed my phone for light, but the screen wouldn't turn on. I was plunged into complete darkness, and the air grew so cold I could see my breath. Something moved in the corner of the room, a shadow darker than the rest of the night. It stepped closer, and as it did, I felt a suffocating pressure in my chest, like I couldn't breathe. It stopped inches from my face. I couldn't see it clearly, but I felt its presence, overwhelming, hateful, ancient. And then it spoke, in a voice so low and guttural it felt like it was coming from inside my own head. "You're mine now." I don't know how I managed to escape. One moment, I was paralyzed with fear, and the next, I was running barefoot out of the house, the cold air biting at my skin. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road, where a passing driver found me and called for help. I never went back to Willow Creek House. I sold it as soon as I could, taking a huge loss just to be rid of it. Later, I learned that the family in the photos had lived there decades ago. The little girl had disappeared, and her parents moved away soon after, leaving the house abandoned. Locals say her spirit haunts the basement, angry and vengeful, waiting for someone to take her place. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear whispers. And every now and then, when I pass a mirror, I swear I see her face, smiling back at me.